Okay, so now we will review the budget menu section of the app's online tool. So the budget menu can be found on the left side menu under Program Stats. So click on that menu item and the following screen will appear. So in this menu item, there are 3 tabs, and it's for the overall program budget as well as for individual programming expenses, should you wish to list them. The first tab that appears is your revenue tab. And this is kind of the revenue for the whole program. So you'll see there's a series of fields there. The first field is the Northern Community and School Recreation Program grant amount. So for that, you enter in the full grant amount for the year. So for the 2014-15 year, that amount for a full-time site was $46,300. The next field there is if there's any formal employer contribution that you know of that is going to be contributed to the program. And if you scroll over the little question mark circle there, you'll see that the Northern Lights School Division does contribute an additional $7,000 formally. So that's just listed there to remind you that if you are a Northern Lights School Division site, to add another $7,000 into that field. The other revenue field is just if you know concretely that there is other revenue being provided to the program, whether it's through grants, sponsorships, or other formal means, and you can list the other revenue there. The details, again, is just to write the text of what that other revenue might entail. So all of these fields have to be numbers. And they have to be numbers without the $ and without commas. So just numerical numbers can go into these top 3 fields. And the other revenue details is where you can actually write what you added in those fields if you'd like to add more detail. The total revenue box is grayed out, you'll see, and once you save the budget, that amount will be calculated automatically. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to press save. And you'll see at the bottom there that the total revenue field at the bottom calculated the total amount of all the revenues that I had inserted, which was really only 1. So then we'll continue on to enter in the expenditures portion of the budget. In the coordinator salary, that's where you're going to enter in the annual salary, annual estimated salary for the year. So I'm just going to put in a number there at $32,000. Again, you're going to estimate the benefits. So if you're completing this, you can look at last year's. If you've been participating in the program for a number of years, you can look at last year's salary and benefits and estimate based on those numbers. You can look at the salary grid tool, which is available on our website, to estimate those numbers. It really is up to you to try and give the best guess of what you want to estimate those budget numbers to be, but try and base them on some evidence or support that that's actually what will be spent. So for benefits, that's benefits and all remittance for EI, CPP, health, any other benefits that cause a financial expense. The CSRC training and professional development, so that's attendance for your CSRC to attend the district's 3 mandatory training events, as well as any other professional development opportunities that the steering committee sees fit to allow a budget expense for. And you'll see if you scroll over the little question mark icon that we do suggest a minimum of $2,000 if you are a full-time site. Some of the communities which are in more isolated areas or have to travel farther or perhaps fly may wish to budget a little bit more as their costs will be higher. Okay, so I've entered in the 3 expense amounts there, and again, you'll see the other areas are grayed out. The programming expenses, if you scroll over the question mark icon, are listed as materials, supplies, equipment, leadership, skill development opportunities, anything that it takes to actually run the program that's within the guidelines for spending for the program. This amount actually autofills from the next tab, which we'll be going to shortly. So you don't enter it in directly into the expenses tab. And then the total expenditures you'll see once we press save, which I'll do right now. And we'll just go back into the expenditures tab. So once you press save, the total expenditures will calculate what you've entered in those first 3 fields. So right now I have expense $38,000. And then this next field will actually show me what my difference is between my total revenue and the total expenditures that I've entered in to date. So right now it's showing me that I have a difference of $8,300. That difference then, as you know, can be spent now on programming related expenses. And that's going to be the next tab that we go to. So we're going to click continue. And that's going to take us to this budget items tab. So now what we want to do is take all of the programs that we've entered and decide, okay, where am I going to spend that $8,300 that I have left over in my budget to spend on programming supplies? And in order to do that, we are just going to click on the add button. So over on the right hand side, you'll see there's a blue add button. So I want you to click on that. And you'll see some fields pop up. So knowing when we go back that we popped back to expenditures, we had $8,300 to spend on programming supplies to balance our budget. Going back to the budget items tab, we added a row. So now we're going to select a program. So these are all the programs that we have on this site because it's a test site. So I'm going to select soccer. Okay. We know that there are some costs associated with running the soccer program. So for example, I'm going to need soccer balls, and I'm going to say budget amount for $150. And now these other two columns, so the actual amount and the notes, are really just for optional use. If as a coordinator or a supervisor or employer, you'd like to use the system to track what you actually spend, it will print out a nice report for you to actually show to your steering committee on what was initially budgeted and what was actually spent, and it will help you keep track of your funds as you go along. So say if you budgeted $150 but you only spent $100, you now have an extra $50 to spend on another program, and that's good information to know. So the actual amount we don't know now, so I'm going to leave that blank. And the note, you might just want to keep track of just some general details about that expense. So say I purchased the balls at Source for Sports. Maybe I want to keep track of that just so that I know for next year where I got them. Okay, so that's $150. So I'm going to add another row and say I want to add another soccer expense. This time I'm going to add snacks because I know that for soccer the kids are going to be hungry and we want to incorporate snacks into the program. So I'm going to put $250 for a budgeted amount, and I'm going to put that the Northern Store is where I got them from. Okay, and so when we click save, it'll take us back to the initial tab, but it'll show me that my budget has been saved, this little green arrow and bar up at the top here. So when I go into my expenditures, it's now showing a total of $400 that has been budgeted on programming expenses, and now it's showing me that I have a difference. Now I only have $7,900 left available to account for in my programming expenses. When I go to my budget tabs, it shows a nice a nice table of what I so far have budgeted. So for the sport or for the program of soccer, so far I have soccer balls, I have snacks, and it shows the budgeted amount. It shows the actual amount, and it actually in the green here will show the difference between what you've budgeted and what you have left available to spend. And then at the bottom here, you can continue to add rows or remove rows. So you just have to press save after you add and remove to get it to calculate back into the expenditures and revenues tab. So ideally, what you want to do is have your budget balanced. So we're just going to add a row here, and we're going to finish budgeting the rest of this $7,900. So we'll go back to our budgets tab. We'll just pick another test program as our program to spend it on. Let's just spend it on supplies. You can be generic or specific as you like, so it doesn't always have to be an exact amount for soccer balls or for snacks. You can just list it as general supplies if you like, if you're not quite sure. If you know you need a budgeted amount, but you're not quite sure exactly the specifics of that budget. So let's put supplies, and we're going to just finish off the rest of that budget of $7,900 for that program. Of course, you wouldn't go and spend $7,900 on one program, but just for the sake of this test. So then we're going to press save. We're going to go look at our expenditures, and you'll notice that our difference now is at zero. So our budget balances. So if we look, we have $8,300 budgeted for programming expenses. Our total expenditures is $46,300, and we know that our revenue is $46,300. So our difference there is 0. So that's how you want your budget to look at the end, where your difference is 0, your budget balances, and you have numerous programs that are listed and the expenses associated with those programs. Again, you'll see the table popped up. It shows another test program, the budgeted amount, etc. And again, when you scroll over your notes, question mark icons here for your notes, those little icons will pop up just to show you what you wrote in there. Okay, so finally, once your budget is all balanced and entered, you're going to export it to PDF, which is the yellow button at the bottom here, and just click that. And it will generate a PDF document for you. And it looks like this. So it will show your community name, it'll show your total amount of revenues and the information you entered there. It'll show you your total amount for expenditures, including your programming supplies. And then it will also show you your table there of what programs you have budgeted those program supplies for. And it'll show you kind of that running total of budgeted and actual. So once you've generated this PDF, you can have it signed by your steering committee and your supervisor, and then sign it yourself and submit that with your annual program plan. We do only require this budget page to be submitted once in association with your annual program plan. But again, if you'd like to go back and tweak and add actual amounts and keep it as a recording tool for your program amounts, you're more than welcome to do that, and print it off on a regular basis if you like for your steering committee so that they can see kind of what's been budgeted versus what's been spent. But that's an optional way to use this tool if you like. So that concludes the budget section of the annual program plan and statistics recording tool.